Welcome to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best, brought to you by CKJ Live. The Spacious Place is where you get to be who you really are. Not what your experiences say, not what your role as a wife or a mom says, not even what your job title says or doesn't say. You get to be who you were fearfully and wonderfully created to be. Join me as we explore the woman inside, the one who longs to be set free. Let's talk with women who journeyed and found themselves surrounded by endless amounts of opportunity. And at this point, they're unstoppable. So if you're ready to be you, truly you, make room, grab a pillow, and welcome to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best. Hey guys, welcome. I am so excited. I'm so excited that you're joining me on this journey. We're going to be journeying, ladies, and I am so excited. But if I can be honest with you guys, I actually struggled on where to start this podcast. Like, how do I introduce myself? What topics do I start with? And the week that I was supposed to record the first episode, I was practicing with my husband. I was practicing just the first episode, what I was going to be talking about. And when I got done, he was like, okay, that was good. It didn't really sound like you, but it was good information. And so I was like, okay. And so I really toiled with that. I couldn't sleep that night. I was thinking about it. And so I just got up that morning and I was praying and I was like, okay, God, what is it that you want me to talk about? Where do I start? And so I just surrendered it to God. I was like, okay, you can have it. And so I end up going back to sleep. And I actually had a dream that I was talking on the podcast about this topic that I'm going to be talking about today. And so here we are. I have been kind of struggling with this idea of the fact that joy and suffering can coexist. Actually for a while now, but it wasn't until really recently that I was really faced with it and was able to explore it so intimately. So today, guys, I want to take you on the journey of having a miscarriage. I had a miscarriage about 6 months ago, and I want to take you on that journey and just really explore this idea that joy and suffering can coexist. And so it's going to be a little bit of a story time, so bear with me. But I promise that I have some points at the end that I want to connect all of this. But I think it's important that I take you on this journey to give you some of the details of what I would really experienced. So starting from the beginning, me and my husband, we have 2 kids. We have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so having more kids was definitely an option. We weren't trying, but we weren't not trying, if that makes sense. And so when we got pregnant in late September, we were really excited. We were excited to be having another baby and expanding our family. And so everything was kind of going as normal. I was having, the normal symptoms. I was having morning sickness. I was really tired. But one of the strange symptoms that it's really not a symptom, but the thing that happened was I started to show really, really early. Like with my previous pregnancies, I really didn't show that early. And so, I didn't really think anything of it. I did send my friend a couple of messages like, girl, I'm looking pretty big. And she would just tell me, are you sure you're as far along? You're not further along. And so that was something strange that happened, but everything seemed to be going normally. And so I had an initial doctor's appointment that it really didn't tell us a lot, but it did the preliminary things. I got my weight and did the expected due date and those type of things. I gave some blood, stuff like that. But I wasn't supposed to have my ultrasound appointment until I was about 10 weeks. So just that anticipation, the first time you get to hear the baby's heartbeat, the first time you get to see the baby on the screen, you get the little picture. I had this little inkling or something in me was maybe suggesting that I was having twins. So I was like, okay, I'm excited. Is it going to be 1 or is it going to be 2? So there was just all of this anticipation leading up to this ultrasound. And so we get to the ultrasound appointment. Again, at this time, I'm probably about 10 weeks or so, maybe a little over 10 weeks. And so we get to the ultrasound appointment. My husband and my kids are there. She starts doing the exam or whatever, and she's doing it on top of my belly, the outside one. And so it's like dead silent in the room. And I don't know if it's just my perspective, but usually, I mean, in my past ultrasound appointments, they're talking, they're kind of talking through what they're doing. And so this was really strange for me because she wasn't saying anything. And so then she says, okay, well, you have a really full bladder. So we're gonna go ahead and have you empty your bladder, and then I'll do the transvaginal one, which is the one when they do it inside. And so I did that. I went to the bathroom, and she began to do it the other way. And again, it was really quiet. She wasn't saying anything. So at this point, I start to get nervous. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so she finishes up, I get dressed, and she says, well, you could not be as far along as you think. Maybe the calculations are off. I would give your doctor a call. And so, we went home, gave the doctor a call, rescheduled. She recommended that we reschedule about a week later to have another ultrasound done. He said maybe things could possibly show up later if I wasn't as far along as I had expected. Now, at this point, I'm just experiencing a lot of confusion. That's the best way that I could explain it, because everything looked as if I was pregnant, but what the ultrasound tech was saying was that she didn't see a baby. And so that was the reason that, she suggested that we come back a week later. She didn't see anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm having morning sickness. I'm really tired. I'm showing as if I'm like 3-4 months pregnant. Like, what's really going on? And so we made the appointment. Before we could even have that appointment, I started to have a little bit of bleeding. Now, it didn't really alarm me because in the first trimester of my first pregnancy with my daughter, I had a little bit of bleeding, and it wasn't anything to be worried about. So this time I wasn't worried until later that morning. I got up, there was more bleeding, and then I had some cramping. And so we went to the ER, me and my husband, and they ran a lot of tests. They did an ultrasound, and then the doctor comes in with devastating news, and she says, I'm sorry to tell you guys, but it looks like there's been a pregnancy loss. And so at that point, I'm like, wait, what? It was really like disbelief, because I don't think for a moment up until that point that she walked in that I had really thought about the fact that it could be a miscarriage. I don't know really what my thoughts were, but I just didn't think it was that. And so she said that, we got that news, and I was really devastated. I really was. And so I was feeling, all of these thoughts like guilt and hurt and pain. Like, did I do something wrong? Was that cocktail that I had like the day or two before I found out I was pregnant, was that something, just all of these thoughts that run through your mind when you get news like this. And so as the days went on, I actually started to feel a little better day by day. And then a week later, it was actually on Thanksgiving Day. We hosted Thanksgiving for my husband's family, and it was a great day. And then later that evening, I started to have excruciating pain. I mean, pain that I had never felt before, not being pregnant. I knew what labor pains were, and this felt like labor pains. And so along with the excruciating pain, I started to have extreme bleeding. I mean, it was pretty bad. Without getting real graphic, ladies, it was bad. And so we end up going to the hospital again. We went to the ER. They ran a whole bunch of tests. They also did an ultrasound, and they told me that the sac wasn't there anymore, which means that I had passed it at home. Hence the excruciating pain. I basically just gave birth, And so they monitored me for a while, and they, just explained that these were the effects of the miscarriage, that it was just everything passing naturally from your body. And so after they monitored me, we end up leaving about 3 a.m. After this, I think what I can explain this as was numbness. I really can't explain it as anything else because I didn't know what to think. It was so traumatic that I think the pain of losing the baby was kind of a faint memory because it was like, okay, what just happened? It it was really, I really can't even explain it, ladies. But it was something that I think day by day, again, I would have moments like really, really, really intense sadness. But then this is where kind of that confliction comes in because a few days later, um, I got an opportunity to do a school appearance. This is around the time where my children's book had just released, maybe a couple months prior. And so it was doing really well. I got an opportunity to do a school appearance and read my book and to share the book with the kids at the school. And so it was really exciting. I was filled with so much joy that people were liking my book. But then I had this other part of me that was in so much pain from experiencing such a loss. And so there was this confliction going on, extreme hurt, like in a fulfilling joy. So like, what do I do with that? I want to tell you guys the two main things that helped me in the midst of this joy and suffering. The first thing, I talked openly and freely about my emotions. My husband created such an amazing, safe place for me that I didn't really have to act like something that I wasn't in the times that I was feeling really low. It was a really, I was really appreciative for that. Another thing that happened is I was talking to one of my really good friends on Marco Polo. And I think I was doing something in the kitchen. I was either cleaning or I was sweeping. And so I was talking to her and I put the phone down to use both my hands. And so when I walked past the phone, I could see my belly in the camera or on the phone. And I just broke down crying. It was like this reality that hit me that you are no longer pregnant, but you still have this belly that just a few weeks ago carried what you thought to be your next child. And so it was really devastating. And I cried right there on Marco Polo. I didn't stop the video. I just cried and I expressed to her how I felt. And so she was watching live at the time. If you know how Marco Polo works, you can watch it live or you can go back and watch the video. She was watching live. And so she responded immediately. And she said something that really changed the game for me. She said, I don't think I've ever seen you as beautiful as I just saw you. That raw emotion was really beautiful. And for her to just say that at a time where I was just expressing my deep pain and my confusion and my devastation, that it was okay. I loved that. It was okay. The second thing that I want to say is I didn't feel bad for having happy and peaceful moments. I didn't want to fake the funk. Like, I don't want to pretend to be sad because that's what was expected of me. It's like you have these moments where you're in a really good place. You're having a really good day. And then you may run into someone and maybe unconsciously on their part, they're really somber or they're really quiet or, they're kind of projecting how they think you should be feeling onto you. And that just wasn't my reality all the time. And so I sat in that. I was able to say, I'm actually having a really good day today and not feel guilty about having a good day. And so those were two things, like talking openly, talking freely about my emotions and settling in that, and then not feeling bad for being happy and peaceful in the times that I was. A couple of years ago, there was this devotional that I was doing as a part of this wives group, prayer group that I'm a part of. And I was really conflicted about this question. And just to think that God brought it back to my memory. Is just so amazing. So the devotional asked, tremendous sorrow and genuine joy can coexist. What do you think it looks like for a woman to experience both sorrow and joy at the same time? And so some of the ladies responded with childbirth. I think someone said losing a loved one from, knowing that they're with the Lord and they're at peace, but also missing them here on earth and the pain from that. But there was one comment that one of the ladies said, and it just really stuck out to me and stuck with me. And I'm going to read it. I'm going to read what she said because I think it's so powerful. She said, the trials that are so overwhelming, you feel as if the Lord is testing you with fire, burning off spiritual impurities for the refining of your faith in Him. The sorrow comes because it hurts, it stings, it's uncomfortable. But joy is present in knowing that your faith is growing as you rely on a strengthened relationship with the Lord. Y'all, that just, it blew my wig all the way off because it's so true that the Lord is testing you with fire, but fire can create some amazing things. And just to know, when I went through this experience, my relationship with God just transformed. I relied on Him in my deepest sorrow, and knowing that He was still good and He was still God because I still saw light was just amazing. I want to let you guys know that I learned that the presence of suffering doesn't mean that God isn't present. It's actually the opposite. And I was able to see that joy and simultaneously be able to experience all that I was experiencing. Now, I promise every episode won't be this deep, but I want to get real, y'all. I want to be raw. I want to be vulnerable because that's the only way that we're going to grow. And so in our next episode, I'm going to have a special guest. I'm going to be talking with an amazing woman, wife, mother of 4. She's beautiful and just an amazing spirit. Her name is Leanne Stuckey. We're going to be talking about breaking free of this concept that mom life will keep you bound. I know this is something that as mothers, I have struggled with just not losing your identity in motherhood. And so I'm so excited to talk to her about that. I'm so excited to learn some practical things because I know that we'll talk about how your relationship with God has to be transformed in the midst of learning that mom life won't keep you bound. But I also want to talk about some practical things like, okay, what can I do today, right now, that'll help me get out of this? My children are my everything and I am losing myself, whether that's you're a mom of a newborn or whether your kids have left for college, whatever stage you're in. I think that we can always reevaluate where we are in our motherhood. And so I'm so excited to be talking to Leanne next week, guys. I can't wait for you to join me. Until next time, this has been The Spacious Place with Andrea Best. You've been listening to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best, brought to you by CKJ Live. Psalm 118:5 says, "When hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. He brought me into a spacious place." Come back and join me as we make more room in our lives to be the women we were created to be. Let's live in the spacious place.